Okay. Okay, this is a meeting of the ARPA Commission on December 19th, 2022 at 1:30 p.m. And we'll call this meeting to order. And roll call, we just went through and looked, and I think we have everyone but Jenny here and Samantha, which means we do have a quorum, so we can proceed. And I'm not sure, did we expect Jenny to join later? No, I haven't heard. Okay. So that's roll call. Next item is approval of minutes, and the one that we have to approve is from November 21st, which was the last time that we met, which was like a month ago. I believe it was.
Move to.
All right, so now move to approve them with the minor correction on page 3 at the bottom of the page, Stu Fisher's name. Oh, wrong. There's like an extra letter in there.
Sorry?
I'll second.
It's just spelling
Correct
of
the
your
spelling of
name.
your name.
Okay, thank you for fixing that.
Yeah, it was nice job.
Any other things about the minutes from the last meeting to fix? No. All right, are we ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Troy's abstaining. He wasn't here. Okay, so those pass. Correspondence, we don't have, I haven't received any letters or anything like that to share.
I think you did.
Oh, I did send one letter to the library
Received one from-
with the clarifications about.
With the correspondence from myself and Chief Moore, be considered to let ARPA know the
Oh,
positive outcome.
oh, right. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, I guess I wasn't thinking that was like official. But yes, we did get an email from you and one from Sue about the passing of the town meeting vote about the 2032 and 36. And that was sent to Donna, right? So that was like, so Donna can officially cut the checks and then once that's done, we can close them,
Yes.
or once it's all done.
I would say that would close the, I think the fire department one, the town one, there was also funds there
Mhm.
for staff appreciation kind of things that may linger.
Yeah.
About.
Okay. Okay. I think that was it. I don't think if I heard anything about anything else that. We did go, we were trying to figure out which things we could potentially close at this meeting, but turns out, well, at least one check's getting cut today that might make something eligible to close. It hadn't been closed as of now, so we can't do it till the next meeting. So anyway, that brings us to present to speak. If anybody's here to talk about like anything on the agenda, basically. Or if you,
We were going to speak, Christina, when it came to our part
yeah,
as far as,
yeah, okay. So yeah, we have you guys on the agenda. Nobody else, nobody's online. I don't think anyone's online. Nobody. Okay. All right, so we can move on to unfinished business. And here we have our list of previously funded requests and where we're at with all of them. Does anyone know of anything that has a further update that's not on here?
Yeah, I'll just, so again, I'll touch a little bit on the retention bonuses. Both the Wellington #1 and myself sent communications to our business manager and payroll coordinator to process those payments to staff. And I anticipate maybe the next payroll cycle, Donna, that they'll be in. So those should be paid out before the end of the year.
Okay. Oh, and there was you guys hired somebody for the senior center?
We did. So Nan King, who was the Human Services Assistant, has been hired. She started last Monday. So there's now someone 9 to 2, so 25 hours at the senior center. So we're excited about that.
Okay, and the budget that was approved for that in here, do you think any change to that?
I apologize. I don't have those numbers with me, but I'll get you an update on that number.
Okay,
I looked at it, Christina, and when we did the budget, we budgeted under the assumption that it was going to be 22 hours a week, and it was finalized at 25 hours a week. So the 34,379, it's not going to go quite as far as we planned out with the 66% and the 33%.
Okay, but also, we're starting later in the year, but we didn't really talk about that, like whether it was specifically for like the fiscal year time period, or if it's a year from when it was first built.
Right.
Right.
And it's
So,
also
that's,
the rate of pay ended up higher than budgeted. So what's your vision for, I thought we would be starting to apply it her first paycheck. You said 100%, right? For FY22, and then 66, and then 33?
Yeah, we had anticipated when we calculated originally 3 months into
Yes.
the last fiscal year, which we didn't,
Yes.
right,
obviously didn't happen. So,
Yes. But
so.
if we, go ahead.
Also, there's
100%.
probably gonna be some money left over at the end of this fiscal year.
Yes, to carry to next year, to
Yeah,
FY23.
okay,
But I believe it will all be used in FY23. There won't be any money to carry over to FY24.
okay.
We were trying to spread it out, so it goes to the end of the grant.
Okay, well, that'll just be something to talk about with the Board of Finance when it comes time, because that's gonna be an important point, I guess.
Yes,
Um,
of Jenny's budget.
yeah, definitely. Like, so having it like laid out clearly, I think will go a long way. That was one thing I know. Have we heard, but I haven't, but has anyone else heard anything from the, not the senior center, but Button Hill?
so we've been talking with Don Berg, and he'd reach out to Donna's office and my own about making sure that he understood the procurement policy and the steps there. So I know that they're working in the direction of procuring a vendor following those steps, and they know they need to bring the
Okay,
ultimate, their choice to the Board of Selectmen for
yeah,
confirmation.
okay, good. I just was afraid that maybe they didn't know that they had the money, because,
Yeah, no, he's aware, and they're making those steps, and he did reach out to make sure he knew what to do.
okay. Oh, Jenny, the people who Human Services hired to do the outreach to the seniors. I forgot which number that is.
You're 35.
35. Where did I put that? I don't know. I don't know, it dropped off. Yeah, bringing UR community cares to Wellington. So I guess that's a question for Jenny, but Donna, do you know if that's started and if like any payments have gone yet out to them?
No, I don't know anything about
Yeah.
it.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
so
just
I'm
curious.
New girl downstairs, but I don't know anything about,
Yeah,
why she's there.
yeah.
There's a new person?
I thought I saw somebody down there, making copies and with Jenny.
Oh,
So I don't know if this is any part of that,
Oh, maybe. Okay,
you know. I have to defer to Jen.
okay.
I'll reach out and see what we can find, because I don't believe we've taken on any new staff. I don't know who that would be. I know we haven't taken on any new staff. so.
Okay.
Maybe it's the volunteer.
Maybe it's a volunteer. Yeah.
All right, well, I think everything else is kind of, just these air packs and things that were ordered. I don't know if you all have seen the updated tracker, but everything that's in orange on here are things that we're just waiting for the final payment to happen in order for us to close it. But we think we know the numbers because the POs were cut for those specific numbers, and the air packs is one of them, and that's been on, we've known that for a while, it's just they haven't come in order for us to pay for them. And is there another thing about that? No. Oh, the radios for the fire department. Do you know?
Some of those are in, not the majority, but some of them are in waiting to be installed.
Mhm.
Once you install it, have some time to do it. And the other ones were originally supposed to come in December, and now they're talking January
Okay,
for the bulk of it. Those do not require installation.
all right. All right, well, we haven't missed something that we could close, so
Nope.
that's good. All right. All right, anybody else have anything about any of these items? Okay. Moving on to previously heard requests. So these are items that could be added to the list to go to the public hearing, which is in the new business section of the agenda that comes after this. So basically, these three things, if we want to decide to put them on the public hearing agenda, we can, which is all that means. So let's see. So the first one is what we're calling ARPA 40B, which is a miscellaneous library structure improvement projects, the berm and the parking lot. But do you guys want to talk more about the berm?
We kind of think that we've kind of jawed that one to death, haven't we? We've talked and talked and talked about it. Is there any questions that you have?
Wasn't there were,
I think we're looking for Troy's input on terms of putting a berm at the end of the parking lot and how that would impact their snow removal.
yeah,
Yeah, I really don't see why to put a berm there. I don't really see anything
The
beneficial.
reason we're going to put a berm of rocks there, actually, a berm is usually a mountain dirt.
Yeah, I know what a berm is, yes.
But this would be some rocks there, is because there is a very steep drop off there. And I know that a car rolling down there or something is probably pretty, probably not gonna happen. But we do have kids that are coming in with motorbikes and everything else in that parking lot, doing wheelies, doing, stuff like that. This happens. All we need is for one kid to go over there. And it doesn't matter whose land they land on. That's not the problem. The problem is they left our property and they went down. So every one of us is going to be named in a lawsuit if that happens. Every one of us. And you know what the court's going to do? They're going to throw out probably 90% of everybody. But by then you've spent how much money on lawyers? I mean, that's the way lawsuits work. So our best bet is to spend a little bit of money, just do it. And so we've covered ourselves and we can say that we did our best to put up a visitable barrier there and keep this from happening. It seems to me like it's a cheap way of covering yourself. Now, 3,800 is totally for transporting those rocks, what, 3 miles from Becker's up and putting them in place? 3,800. I think it sounds like a lot, but that's what it comes to. Now, if the Public Works is willing to pick them up and put them in place, you can get it done in a day and save $3,800. That's the bottom line. So that would be a little bit of intertown, would it be a cooperation or intra-town cooperation that would be used? So I mean, there's another way of doing this other than spending the money. But so far, or it's 3,400, I'm sorry. So far, as far as we've gotten, as far as we know at this point in time, we have to spend the money to have it done until we get told differently. Okay, so we're on the fence with this too.
Mhm.
I'm gonna disagree with Joan. I think we put ourselves in a lawsuit position when we put those rocks there. The way it was built, and I don't disagree that someone could go over that has not happened. We have no evidence of, repeated concern. And so once we put something there without making sure it's properly done, puts us now in a position of being negligent. And so I'm not sure what the purpose of the rocks is, because I'm not sure that that's a deterrent for someone on a motorbike.
They're the
So-
same thing as what you've got going up at the transfer
Yeah,
station.
and those to be on
So
there.
are you saying that there's no reason to have the transfer station rocks?
No, I would take them out if it was my choice. It takes a man to a day to weed whack around them, to mow around them. If it was my choice, I would have the rocks removed. No one has gone off the edge over there, or it's the same thing over there.
Well,
So
that's the federal government's
You know,
viewpoint on dangerous places, if you've ever climbed in the Rockies or anything else, versus the state review. And the state view on these things is we try to do prevention. And when I was in the state park system, that was our thing, we do prevention. And one of the best preventions we had was put a rock up. If you don't want people someplace, you just put a rock there. And it's a visual barrier, if nothing else. And you can say if something happens, we did what we could. So, I mean, this is up to the committee. We feel it's a safety issue. You don't feel that safety is number one, well, okay.
Well, I certainly don't think we should be, no one is saying safety isn't important, so our, if I can, from the committee perspective, that no one here has said we're against safety, so I certainly think that should not be what's repeated, right? So us questioning something and determining whether or not we spend money on it does not mean we don't find safety important. There has been no evidence of this being a safety concern over the last 16 years. I think that is simply the discussion that we've had here, not that we don't agree in taking safety measures. Christina, do you know when the ones around the transfer station area went up?
Oh,
Long before.
probably when it was
When it was
built,
built.
honestly, it was a long time ago.
Okay.
But
I was curious.
I mean, I think that one of the questions we had early on was it in the plans when the place was constructed that there should be something there? And in that case, like we haven't put one in, so yeah, they should go in if that was true, but then we weren't sure if maybe there was a reason why they weren't included in the plans. So have you been able to find the original plans?
No, we had gone to the town, my department, and he mentioned something about it at the last meeting. We had not heard word back one way or the other as far as what the codes were then, if they were met or not met, if the codes have changed over the years, since that was 16 years ago. So, no, we did pose the questions, we did ask. Nothing to this day has come back, so.
You had access to the plans, right? I think that was the question. Did you get the original documents? Were they
No, we were
provided to
looking for
you?
the coding issues as far as that, not as far as a document, you mean like a diagram or whatever, as far as, because I know there was mention as far as how the land was and being that how deep was its drop and if there was swamp that was there, or what was at the end of it, which isn't the case. We suggested that if someone wanted to visually go out there and take a look at it, so they knew what we were speaking about. To my knowledge, I never heard that none of us heard that anyone did come out. As far as, I want to just say something about the safety. There have been times where Joan is correct, we've shared where there have been, I'm going to say young people who have done wheelies and whatever in the parking lot. The concern when we speak about safety is now that there has been milling put there, there isn't as much traction as there used to be when you had gravel there. So that it has become a more slippery surface, if something were to happen. So, but again, the town has asked us with so many things with the library that we be proactive. We don't want to wait until something happens. We'd rather address the issues ahead of time. God forbid something should happen. Pray it never does, but that kind of, yeah, that's what, where we're coming from as far as that goes. And then too, when I had seen at the transfer station, we're not asking for anything different than that. And our decline, our slope at the end of the parking lot is much deeper than what is being dealt with there. So I would just ask if there was a concern or reason for doing it there, why would you not want to do the same thing at the library where there's also the same concern? I think so, just
Yeah,
want some clarification.
the reason why I would hesitate to do it is because I'd want to make sure that that you're not creating another situation by, an unanticipated consequence by creating that. Or if maintenance is a big thing, if it's hard to deal with the snow because of it. Well-
Again, if you were to go out and we could talk and could see there,
I've been there numerous
isn't.
times.
well, you
There
guys keep
is.
making it longer and wider. There is still plenty of land, grass that the rocks could go and it should not interfere. Plus, it's an overflow parking lot. In wintertime, it's used but for one occasion as far as our craft fair and bake sale that the friends have. And otherwise, there's plenty of parking space where you wouldn't even have to worry about bringing the snow all the way to that point where rocks would be. You could drop it off, before that. And there's still plenty of land before you lose that, you get that drop.
Then if there's all that land, I guess I'm not sure why we need to put the rocks in. If there's
enough
enough,
land for
right,
rocks.
so
That's what I'm saying. If, you're all welcome to go out and take a look at it.
I have been up there. I can tell you that.
So for the purposes of thinking about the public hearing and just the way that we've looked at some other stuff, could the project or could funding be approved to the library board in the amount of, whatever, if this group says we're going to give them $10,000 and the following items were requested, I guess, rather than nickel and dime and try to litigate this issue of a burn, which I don't know that we're ever going to come to a straight resolution for, and which is $3,000, but there's another request which is $51,000. Can we ultimately, after the public hearing, grant them one amount of money that they can use for any number of the following activities? And ultimately, when they start working with the vendors, I'm sure costs will change. If there's savings or whatever, can they make a decision between $3,800 for a library improvement of a whatever it was, HVAC or a burn? Like, do we need to go so far down as to say this $3,800 for an HVAC? Can we just say improvements to the facility and the structure, with the understanding that they can't use it for something they didn't request, and just let it?
I think we could do that. It's just for this particular one.
Mhm.
I think we might want to put a condition on it, which is to make sure that we're not violating anything with planning and zoning or public works by putting it in. Because if there's some reason why that shouldn't be there and we've said, okay, put it in, I don't think we're not the people who get to say whether or not it should be there anyway. It's just, do we have the money for it?
Right.
But I don't want to say, yes, you can have the money until we know that it's okay. So if does that make sense?
Yes.
That's to me, and seeing that we currently, right, don't have the money to fund everything, we have to cut something. Mike, I'm not sure I'm in total agreement, because every other project that's come before us has had to very specifically help us understand their project so that we could determine whether or not it could be funded with these funds, right? And so there were other avenues of funding, and this is one that I don't, if it weren't funded here, could they come around to it again, following all those processes? within their operating budget as well. This is another one of those items that could have another source of funding. But I'm gonna go back to the park. There were multiple projects that they wanted to do at River Road and very specific in their reasoning for the dollars that we gave them. So to just give a lump sum over here and not really take a look at what was being done and whether or not it was something that we thought could be funded with these funds, I think we're not looking at everything from the same level playing field. We could have given River Road, here's $200,000, do with it what you will. I think that hasn't been the method by which we've been giving funds, right? So I think at the 300,000 to EDC, there are other things EDC would like to do. We didn't give you 300,000 and say, okay, use it for any number of items. It was, what are you going to use it, and then return the rest. And then you could come back and ask for more if there's still funds. And I think this falls the same way. They gave us an outline of very specific projects. And it's, us making sure we do our due diligence to determine if that's something we feel could be funded, because, unless the math changes, something's gonna have to give. Right? So if we felt that whether or not we agree with it or it should go in, is it more or less urgent than some of the other matters before our committee, and decide how to distribute those funds?
So Mike, if they wanted to put in a shed, they would have to go to planning and zoning to get approval for the shed.
Mhm.
To put in this, either a berm or put in the rocks or whatever barrier we're talking about here, do they need a permit for that?
So
Or,
for the rocks, no, I mean, that's effectively landscaping unless they were trying to put them like in a parking lot, to deal with traffic circulation or something. A berm, I guess we'd have to see how much dirt was being brought in, because we wouldn't want to affect the drainage on the site. But the placement of rocks is not going to affect the size of a parking space, which in this case, it's not even striped. So no, there wouldn't be anything there. There's not going to be any building code requirements, though I'm not a building official, that says a rock has to be this far off of the parking. I mean, it's not structured. So I have not looked at the plans in great detail, but I've never seen anything as far as any type of barrier or protection or anything along those lines in that space. But even still, we would not be in a position to retroactively say, oh, by the way, these need to be in now. I mean, it would be great if they were, if they were there, it would be great to be in compliance with something from back then, but we can't retroactively apply those standards in the PCC realm.
right.
What about like emergency services? Like, I don't know, really, I kind of know where it is, but would it, if rocks were there, would that affect if there was a fire there or whatever?
No, it doesn't affect getting apparatus in. Couldn't bring anything down that hill anyway.
Right,
I'd be more worried about kids, if they're out there in the parking lot messing around, running into those rocks. Right now, if they go over the edge, it's a big long grassy slide all the way to the bottom, and it's not great to do that. It's a lot better than running into a boulder.
or where somebody backed into it. That's another thing. Who would be liable? Like, say somebody is trying to, like, it's a tight squeeze and they back into it. Are we, is,
I would think any guardrail right now.
yeah,
But our people we've had a few ATVers get hurt running into stuff where places they probably shouldn't be. But if you purposely placed a bunch of big rocks there and they ran into that, I'd be more worried about that than.
well, that's the other thing too, is what if the ATVers that you're talking about, the rocks are there and then they don't realize they're there and they smash into them. Well, they weren't there before, now they are, so could we be liable for that?
Yeah.
Like-
I think we've done this one enough. I think we're getting into these things, what ifs, once you start what ifs, you can spend all night on. So you've asked for the information, we've given you the information and the reasoning. And now it's your choice. I mean, this is okay. Whatever you think is best for the ARPA, you have to do.
Do we feel that moving this to public hearing would generate any more information for us or desires of the townspeople as to what to do?
I don't think it hurts to put it, to bring it to public hearing. But I do think like for any request that anyone makes, to have the support of other agencies in town that for whatever it is, would be good. So if you had Public Works saying, yes, you need this berm, and you had Emergency Services saying, absolutely, you need this berm, and you had Land Use saying, yeah, this should be here, that would definitely help bolster the argument, but that's not what we're hearing. They happen to be on our, these guys happen to be on our committee saying it, but we could go to the public hearing and maybe there's other people who would have other things to say about it, but I just don't.
That's true. That's why you have the hearing,
Right.
you know,
Can
and
we
the hearing, you may,
Discuss this as a
you may
committee, I
say
guess.
it's not been supported in the meeting, or you may say it has. But that's your
Right.
choice. At the end of that hearing is when you really will be able to say, no, we don't agree with it, or yes, we do. You know, that's.
Erica, you had
No,
something?
I'm good. No, I'm good.
Um,
I think that's why that we have committee members that make up different areas of the town specifically for these reasons, so that we can determine, right, their input. And, you know, both or all three, you know, Public Works, Land Use, and the fire department are represented here. They've had ample time, I think, to get information that would be beneficial to help us make these decisions. And so, you know, we could certainly send it to, but if we were making a decision today, I'd be hesitant simply because something has to be cut. And when you look at some of the other items that I think might be more necessary or more impactful and beneficial, if we had, you know, repeated activity that was leading to issues, I think there would be a very different discussion, and I think we would have been talking about this for some time. But I don't see any reason why something couldn't go to public hearing. We make our decisions after that point, so it allows the
Right.
public to chime in.
Okay. So let's move on and talk about the other thing and then come back and decide. 40C, which is the HVAC enclosure for $38.50. I think you all have explained that to us. I think I understand what it is. It's like a fence to go around and a covering to go over the
Create
HVAC.
enclosure to protect it from vandalism, to protect it from the outdoor elements, so that harm doesn't come to it, so that it is
Mhm.
kept in good shape and yeah, it doesn't, lack of a better word, break down, have issues, not work.
Is there gonna be a roof over this?
There would be.
Okay, so we just replaced them down at the senior center and they were under the deck and they said they can't vent. They're meant to go, the air is supposed to go up. That's why they burnt out faster than what the original lifespan of those units were.
Well,
So
we had-
putting them in an enclosure isn't, they're meant to be outside.
Well, we had both an engineer and also the electrical company who had given us a quote as well. There is a way to do it where that isn't the case and you still end up protecting.
So have you had issues
I
with
have
it?
to believe that they know what they're doing, and that's what we're going on.
Well, we spoke to multiple vendors when we looked at, when we had the significant issue at the senior center, right? We had to replace all of those units and they thought they were in the best place they were. Turns out it caused issue. Have you been having, I think I had asked this question before, and you've had no vandalizing of this unit. And you had said there had been no issue with
No,
damage
but-
to the unit.
No, and we've been very fortunate. Matter of
Okay.
fact, the two people that I just spoke of mentioned that we were lucky in that because it is behind the building and people don't know, and actually to get to it, you have a couple of good hills to get down. You'd have to be looking for trouble before you'd find it. That it's been to our benefit that it hasn't been vandalized. And I don't want to say publicly what the concern is, because then I don't want everybody to not know about it. And then, but
Well, we have multiple units outside this building and not everything, we've never had vandalism. And they're certainly, they've been affected by age, but not being open to the elements. And then that's not uncommon in public or in any kind of building such as the town hall or a library. So I think if there's some other reason you think we should allocate these kinds of funds to put up something, who's gonna go in there and clean around it? Because grass will certainly
No,
grow
it's
around
on
the
a
chain link
platform
fence.
now, whatever,
Sure,
so
but
there's-
grass will grow through that chain link fence. That has to be, that will have to be maintained. Do you have a plan for that? I mean, that's the reality. It's, right now, they clean around ours now and you can get to them. It gets a little bit more difficult when you enclose it.
We would make plans for that to be taken care of, yes, obviously, we would, yeah.
Well, I think I'd want to know that plan so that it's taken care of. It's behind your building where,
Well, we do have right now, the town has sourced out people to mow our lawns. They to do mowing, and they do weed whacking, which is what they do for everything else around the library, whether it's the pavilion now with the picnic tables. We've asked, or the gardens, or it would be just one more thing that we'd ask them to do, is just to weed whack around the cement platform that is there. And to look at, there's never been an issue with anything growing there as it stands now. So I can't believe doing something like that.
there's nothing that grows in that. I mean, okay.
Well,
I don't, this
It's
isn't,
maintained in that
I
there
don't-
isn't an issue with grass. growing
unless
out
there's
there.
some different information that leads us to believe this is a real issue. This is one that I think, again, we don't have as much money to fund everything. Somebody's gonna get less or nothing. And this is one that we've been fortunate, right? As we are here, the items have not been damaged by vandalism. And so I'm not sure what putting, almost $4,000
Two
for
of the
a cover.
firehouses have them out behind the firehouse,
Right.
and with no enclosure.
Can I ask, though, and again, I'll put it, as it happens, it happens. Do these that you have happen to have copper? Are they copper piping, whatever, that people they break into homes and steal these days, and always have? That's what we're dealing with. What we have is expensive in that way, that if somebody were to go in the back, they could certainly strip it of everything, and then we have a whole nother issue and problem that we're dealing with to replace. And that's the whole thing with vandalism, that they're saying you're lucky that you have not had an issue with this yet, because if somebody were to find out, which not people will, so what you're dealing with at the senior center or at the firehouse, what are they made of the same thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Of course
they are.
Yeah.
Then it'll be what it'll be. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, well.
And what about the schools? Like, do we have any of these enclosures on
No.
any public building?
And even the ones at the library weren't enclosed, and they weren't meant to be enclosed. I think they just thought that was the best place for them when they built it, and it seemed logical. I don't think anyone thought twice about it until they didn't quite meet their life expectancy simply because of the lack of airflow
Well, we
allowed
have-
by them. So,
What we have too is because of the way the building is set and where they are, it does get a lot of moss or whatever. I don't know where you guys have yours being set up, how the elements affect it, or if sun gets at it, so you don't have the problem with moss, just for one example going. That is something that we do deal with as far as just because of where it had to be, where it's placed. The elements, the rain, does come down because of the way the roof is, because of the not getting sun, we deal with that, moss growing on it. So that with the protection as far as something like a chain link fence would be, as far as something like having over the top would be, again, to protect it from the elements, just to prolong the life of it. The town has asked us with everything, to be proactive. Don't wait till something happens and then it costs more money. So this was just one of those items that we thought you should know about and why.
and Deb, I might agree with you, had we not just gone through this, and so I'd hesitate to put money to cover something because I don't want us to put us in a situation we were at with the senior center and then not meeting their expectation of life. So that one I'm hesitant to put a closure over top of it, but I would say, that adding that into your maintenance plan of the equipment and making sure that it's clean because of the location and the kind of sun that it gets. Everyone is a little bit different in where they're placed, and it's not really about sun exposure, but it's certainly a cost for maybe some extra maintenance that is required around it.
All right, moving on to ARPA 40B, which is the window frames, the exterior window frames. So that one, I know you guys, you've had people out that they gave you an actual, that's an estimate, a real.
It's a potential because, you know, in some parts it's 3 stories high, which is why the more expensive costs to be able to get at those areas. Again, with the deterioration of it, there's nothing anybody could do. It's not lack of maintenance. It's not, you know, it's just something that with age, what it's made out of wood, trying to preserve it, take care of it so that we don't have to have something worse happen. Frames, you know, deteriorate and, you know, windows fall out or whatever, you know, it's just taking care of the structure of the building, and it's just because of the elements, the age. And there is nothing that we could do, being because of how the windows are and how high up or whatever, that we could ever physically ourselves do. It's out of our hands almost, kind of control. So it's just, again, taking care of it so that it doesn't get worse and to prevent what could happen in the future.
What exactly are they doing to the window frames?
They're made out of wood. They're beautiful. They're all breaking down. They're
Are they replacing that wood or are they simply painting it?
no, not just paint. It would have to be fixed and replaced however they would see fit, depending on what each area looks like. Again, it depends on how the elements are hitting wherever it is, and they would repair it. But then after that, they would need to be painted, so it'd be finished. Kind of a 2-step process.
So this includes some replacement, because your explanation just said painting. I think that's probably what Stuart asked, just said scraping and painting.
No. No, it's fixing. It's actually repairing. I would imagine scraping would be before they paint it, but no, that cost is for repairing as well.
Is the glazing deteriorated?
The
The
glazing,
glazing would hold the glass into the window.
you know, I've never physically seen it myself.
It's like
Again,
a putty material that
but
gets fine.
that possibly, again, that's not something that my eyes have actually, that was left that for them to do. So I'm going again on the experts who what they're, you know, doing. Someone had asked as far as one of the meetings, what the windows were. They're glass. There's also metal as far as some of the trimming. It's the wood that we're speaking of on the windows that needs attention.
Is proposal written down somewhere? The
haven't
proposal to look
seen it.
at? She doesn't really know
I
what's
haven't
wrong
seen
with the
it.
window. but
Right, because
they-
the write-up does just say painting, scraping,
I can change, I
and
apologize.
repainting.
You have a
I didn't
proposal?
write that up. It should be repair.
Do you have an estimate?
Yes, the quote was, and I gave the quote you guys.
I
was
think it
for
was
the
included. Yeah.
$51,000.
I don't know what they did.
Let me see if the quote says something.
So I'm still hung up on my first question, so it's Monday, bear with me. One of the things I'm like stuck on is that most of this is related to what we can sum up as a lack of maintenance, deferred maintenance, not knowing certain things are required. Part of it is probably these things should not have been spec'd originally when the building was built, and here we are. Or that things weren't completed, or the costs were cut when the structure was built. Like all of those things probably all have gotten us here. But a lot of it is also from their perspective now, at least what I'm hearing, is almost like a risk management. If we don't do this, this might happen. It'll cost more money, and it could lead to other issues. And that could be fixing something, putting a roof over an HVAC, putting a berm or rocks. And all of those things are effectively preventative. And so I guess I was trying to total up exactly how much their requests are. It's, if you look at the tracker, it's about 105,000 or something around that realm. So my question, my first question, or maybe my question now is, if we gave them $85,000. Could they then prioritize based upon their understanding of what those risks are? Because what happens if they look at their budgets, their operating expenses, and they say, well, you know what, we can do 75% of the windows with the money from ARPA, and then we can come up with a plan over time to repair the ones that are in the best position over the next 5 years. And so we can reduce our costs there, but we are very concerned about the HVAC stuff. So we're going to take the money that we don't have used from ARPA. But can they use some of that money and come up with a bit of an operating plan for their own budget to take care of potentially all the projects on the list? I recognize that if the group as a whole doesn't feel that HVAC upgrades are worthy, then we can reduce whatever they are potentially approved by that value. But are they then precluded from using the monies we give them for that purpose? Because we've talked about maintenance and how they get there, and if these issues would have happened, had the building been kept properly over the last 16 years, and if they get a portion of what they're asking for, and then they come up with a 5-year plan to get all of it done using their funds or whatever, do we care if they do some of these projects? You know,
Yeah, I think we did.
I think we did.
So you have 7 requests
We
there.
do.
It would be
I
helpful
agree with
for
you.
all of us to know
So
what priority are those 7 requests? Are the bollards protecting the light poles more important than the chain link fence around the AC, which is more important than the rocks, or so on and so on? We have 7 here. We've got a jungle all around it. Which ones are most important to you?
because we've worked, I mean, I think the school had a request for monies pertaining to activities or something that each individual administrator would work with the teachers to determine what was necessary. And they would make a determination on the best way to use those funds. And when we talked about the EC project, we didn't go through each individual line by line item of how they would come up with the criteria and then ultimately make the choice as to who was eligible. And so I'm not saying that we shouldn't care about how they spend the money, like, oh, we don't care, it's not our money. That's not what I'm saying. But if we give them $4,000 and we know that we're not going to allow them to violate building code or health, like those issues aside, if we give them $4,000 and they look back and they say, you know what, from a risk perspective, after having managed this building for 15 years and as the folks responsible, we would much rather spend it on this instead of that. And it falls within the bucket of what they requested. Is that a big concern for us? If we know that it's an eligible project, I guess for me, maybe I'm alone. They know that part better than us. It's their building and they know whether they're more likely to have to replace an HVAC unit or to have a car go off a hill or see a dirt bike or whatever.
I think what I heard Erica say was that the money is now starting to dwindle down.
Right.
There's not that much there.
So if we-
Like,
So if we give them less,
but like, I think that's what I heard you say is that we need to figure out. Not that these aren't eligible, like worthy or eligible,
Right,
but
yeah.
that something else that is like dire is waiting.
A little bit more important, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I
you know,
just,
there's
For
some
lack of
wants and
better
needs, but
words.
look, and I'll use the EDC, Mike, as an example. That was a very specific use of the dollars. While we didn't get into the how it was going to go, if you had brought us a project for building something, we want to know, make sure it was going to be utilized in the best possible way, and that's what was needed. And that there's going to be a plan down the road for how to maintain that. Like if public hearing has support for this, and then we ultimately agree to this 51,000, I need to know that there's gonna be a plan in future years in CIP to put this on the list of 16 years later, this needed to be redone. We need to start planning fiscally for how this can be done again. And I think we've heard a little bit, and these folks are taking the brunt of action that wasn't theirs before now, and we all recognize that. But what we've heard as a group is many things have been neglected over the last 16 years. So I'm not sure there is a whole lot of, I don't want to say confidence, that's not the right word, but we want to be sure that what's being done is the right project that needs to be done for the library. And what they're doing is what we expected. So right off the bat, you know, Stuart asking this because Deb's saying something very different from what we got information on. And so when the public goes to it, are they voting on project A and it's going to be something else? And is that going to uncover another issue, replacing that wood, is that gonna uncover something underneath that wood? Just
Right.
helping us understand how the money's gonna be used and justifying the projects, because we can't put through every project. And if this is a capital improvement project, no doubt about it, right? This should have been in a CIP plan. And if we didn't have ARPA funding, I'd hope this would still be going to CIP, and I hope they've already asked for it in CIP. And that group is going to be asking all of these same questions to weigh in. We have 20 projects that need to be done, we can only fund 4. And I'm being absurd with those numbers, but we can't support everything. So helping us understand all of the facets of these projects, because after they leave us, they're gonna go to a public hearing and then come back to us, and we're going to have to decide. So from my perspective, I'd like to have as much information about the projects as we can. And some of them are just more in depth. I mean, again, I go back to River Road, they got kind of grilled ad nauseum for all of the things that were happening over there to help us understand how they were gonna use almost $200,000. And it's the same, from my perspective, it's the same here. These specific construction-like projects are a little bit more in depth than some others.
And actually, I have another question regarding the window project. If it's wood now and it's only 16 years old, that's concerning to me that it needs to be replaced after 16 years. So why would we want to replace it with wood? Why wouldn't we look at like resin or something? Or what's that? Trex or, yeah,
Vinyl.
something that's.
The windows
Should have been done in the
in
beginning.
there are very expensive windows. So it's probably more cost efficient to go ahead and keep this up and the maintenance up, et cetera. And so I hear you, and that really is a good idea. But it probably would be so prohibitively expensive to replace windows or to totally replace the material around the windows. So at this point in time, we might want to think twice.
I mean, if you're replacing the wood anyways, the labor is almost identical to replace it with a synthetic product.
But with that, we're not replacing all the windows.
I'm not talking the window, I'm talking about the rotted wood.
We're
that you
not
spoke
going to
about.
replace all of the wood. There are certain places, you know, you've done a house, you know, this windowsill is fine, the one on the north side is worse, you know, that kind of thing. So it's a, you know, piece by piece replacement. We've had it done in our house. Almost everybody ends up with a project like that sometime. So it probably is better. Let's get them replaced now, get them painted and keep them up. Part of the issue is this idea of maintenance versus repair, et cetera. This has never been worked out between the library and the town. It's
We don't
never
have
been,
any
it's never
maintenance
been
here.
worked
That's
out.
well,
We have not been able to find
I
a
would
document that
disagree.
spells it out. It could be in the bottom of the filing cabinet someplace that we haven't looked yet, very honestly. But I mean, that is an issue, and everything we've put down has been safety. It has been to enhance the building. Okay, there hasn't been any real fluff here or something we really like to do. It's been, what do we think we need? Because we have been entrusted to at least pay attention to the town building. We can't do all the repairs ourselves. We can't do that. That's, you know, it's been neglected too long. We neglected it. The town neglected it. We all got to take a little bit of a hit in this. That's okay. Let's get over that idea. Let's move on into, well, what are we going to do? And if you think these projects are not necessary, but this one is, that's all right. That's your charge. That's what you've been charged with. Nobody can hold it against you if you think something isn't right. Let's, you know, too much bickering right now at this point in time. So the bottom line on this project is the windows have to be repaired, probably reglazing, particularly on the south side where you get a lot of the sun, they have to be reglazed, that kind of thing. And we get it done. And then that is done. But you're right in that it should be put on to CIP further down the road. Maybe we put it on a 10-year CIP plan because that would be, you know, the time. We've put other things like the roof on CIP because you're right, you do have to plan ahead. I think that's very wise. That's what hasn't been done. You know, and you're looking at people here who haven't been here 16 years. So we're take our share of the hit, but we're not gonna take the whole hit on that, okay?
Can I just say one thing more, just a general statement, with the amount of money that, ARPA, what is it, 1.7 million? I would think that that would be for all entities in town, and I have seen, what has come through, and I get it that when you say there's not much money left and there's only, like, what's more important. I guess my feeling would be on the library that we are an important part of the town. If we're only asking for $105,000, there were 10 items between the number 39, our first application, and the second. We only had 2 applications. I've seen many, many different entities in town put in numerous applications beyond 1 or 2. I would like to see, and maybe the townspeople too, to see that the library being a part of the town and it's all being together, getting something of ARPA money. When I see what's come, when I see one item of $90,000 for one job, for one entity that's had many applications and have been approved, and we're looking for, originally ours was like $180,000. Or I see a truck that is $165,000 and for one vehicle versus many other things that have been asked. I guess I would like to believe and see that the town would give the library something of the money that is there for what we feel is important or significant. That's all, you know, and if you say that this is not, then that you guys are the authority with that. I personally, you know, would respect that and would abide it. And you had mentioned, I think Eric had one of the last meetings, if not the last one. So what happens if we don't get this money? We'll find a way. We'll find a way. You know, it won't end here. It's just something that being good stewards of the library's money and the townspeople. And I know too, Christina mentioned, and I know well, there's nothing that is free. It hasn't cost us, it will cost us as far as this ARPA money goes. I have no doubt about that. But that we were just trying to, whether it's the budget or a CIP, trying to save truly, because I'm one myself, a taxpayer, the individual taxpayer not having that kind of burden on them, going the budget way or going the CIP way. We wanted to take advantage of this money, as everyone else has been, to do something that needed to be done for the library so that down the road, we wouldn't have to look for taxpayers to pay out of their pocket as much. That's all. I'm done. Thanks for listening.
The windows, so the 51,000, do you have an actual estimate for that?
Yes, and what I'll do is I'm gonna check that.
Wasn't
word
that
for
sent
you.
in with it?
Pardon?
Wasn't that sent in?
No.
No,
It was originally,
it
but it
wasn't in
didn't
there.
say, I don't know.
I don't know if the attachment just didn't get on there, Deb, but there was nothing
Oh,
attached to
really?
it originally.
Yeah, I don't see it. I just
No.
looked again to see.
I
Yeah.
did, I did, guys. I'm sorry if you
That's
didn't get
okay.
it. I didn't realize just now that you did, but yes,
Yeah, I don't think there were any attachments to that particular.
And Erica,
to
you
that
mentioned
option.
too at the last meeting, you want to know what our, for whatever reason, our maintenance line item was on our
Yes.
budget.
Yeah.
And it was only at 5,000. We have only a few hundred left. And we just asked for that information.
So, and again, I think if this has done nothing, and again, I recognize that the 3 of you sitting here are not the same 3 people that have been responsible all these years, but you are now. So I know what it's like to sit in your seat and you're responsible, right? So we're not
Yeah,
going, we
and-
can't go back. So if this shows you nothing, it's like $5,000 is not enough for you to maintain that building on an annual basis.
Mhm.
You need to look at more and have a plan for how it's going to be utilized.
But there has to be a difference between maintenance and repair.
Well, it depends on the level of repair, so I
That's-
disagree with you on that,
well,
because
we
we're
have to-
responsible for,
We have to
Well,
decide, yeah.
I oversee a budget that repairs multiple buildings and not a lot of dollars. So sometimes it comes down to, what has to be done
Yeah.
first, but we have a plan for all of those things.
Yeah.
And so repairs and maintenance are part of your maintenance of your building. So, recognizing that there may be some repairs, a full replacement of an air conditioning unit, maybe be something that pops up on you and you don't expect, that there should be a plan in CIP. And the fact that we haven't seen any of those things in CIP over all this time says that
And you think the
it's
town
a
would be
culmination
happy?
of, we're not happy.
We're not
And
happy.
it's not happy. Every time CIP comes along and there are not requests from the library, it's concerning to me. Because everything isn't going to last forever. So something in that 5 years should be planned for. So there should be something in there, and there hasn't been anything. And so
We're in
that's,
agreement with that.
right, so that's,
absolutely.
concerning
I
to me,
agree.
but I think there's a difference there's not a difference on a certain scale between repair and maintenance. Some of that repair is part of your maintenance.
Yeah, but it is
So,
a matter of scale, but I hear you. and-
Yes.
And the library should be on the CIP. I'm with you 100%.
Yes, because they're eligible every year. They're
And
asked
this is-
every year.
This is a case, this is something that should have been on, that we're asking to get paid out of the ARPA to avoid the taxpayers. And to put
But-
it correctly, when you're in the taxpayer, you got 5,000 people paying the bill.
Right, but
you
if
get
it
to
had
CIPA,
been,
You got
but Joan,
300 million.
there were several things that had already been on the CIP plan for years. And when ARPA money came around and they said,
Yeah.
can we use, it? Yeah, absolutely.
know,
Because
I know
now
that.
now we're creating things perhaps that we're never going to be on the CIP plan in the first place. So we're trying to suss
Oh,
that
this-
out as well.
I think this would have been on it. It's a matter of us, again,
Right,
sitting down, saying what has to happen and what's been
yes.
prioritized. And that's what we've been working on. And then ARPA kind of gets dumped and you're like, oh, scramble, which isn't helpful.
Well, it doesn't, but again, if it shows you nothing, you should be having a plan that you could easily pull things out of.
Yeah.
Because we did get requests, beginning in March.
The
right,
library's in the
so-
best hands it's ever been in.
Right, and the library didn't submit something until July. So in all that time, and that's why we're at the point where we don't have a whole pot of money, we're having to decide, and that's where the library's coming in. I feel confident speaking for everyone sitting at this table that we all value what the library brings to our community. We don't have enough dollars to say yes to everybody. And maybe that will change and something will come in so far under budget, we will, but I just don't know that we will. So we're gonna have to have the hard part after we hear from the public of saying, we can give you some money, but you just can't do everything you want with it.
So
So,
essentially, we prioritize and then you have to prioritize on a town level. I understand that.
Okay. And I do want to say, I'm looking at one of the attachments that has the proposals, and at the very end is this one. It's like on the very
it's
last
attached to
page.
39.
It's on
Yeah.
40, but it doesn't seem to have all the information. It just says
No.
paint trim.
Yeah, it just says
Yeah, I
paint
gotta
2
check
coats
that
on
one out.
exterior wood trim and metal doors.
Right. It's like
Yeah,
the third page of the quotes attachment.
Has
But
the-
that goes with 39, which was $1,000 to replace and repair rotten trim, sweep, mold. I think, is that what you're
No,
looking at from Jay Montfort?
it's J. Montfort, but it does say 50,457 at the bottom.
Maybe I didn't- that one isn't the top.
Or maybe it was attached to 40.
It's on
Okay.
40.
Yeah,
All
It's
right,
it's proposal 007, paint 2 coats on exterior wood trim and metal doors,
Yeah,
$45,870.
so that
No.
does not, so
no, it
that,
doesn't, and I will go and talk to.
Yeah.
the,
I mean, if we give you 51,000 and you're expecting a project here and you're only able to do here, that's why we ask
No,
these
and-
questions,
and
because
it
that's
might
not the
be-
project we think you need or agree
Maybe when they
with.
looked at it, they didn't find, I understood that there was, if any wood needs repaired, they would do that. Unless they found that there wasn't anything wrong with the wood and it just needed to be scraped and painted. I will.
but if they do that, they're probably gonna charge you extra.
Yeah,
I know.
we'll see.
So,
That's what I understood, definitely
Yeah.
wasn't the same as what's written.
All right. So where are we? Where's my agenda? Okay. That's it.
The next one, well, the next would be new business to call a public hearing for.
All right.
Well, do we want, I'd say before we move on to that agenda item, it's, right now, these are not listed, so if we go to calling a public hearing, none of these items are on that public hearing. So we would need to potentially take action prior to that item if this committee so chooses.
I guess I'd like to make a motion to move the window, the 40B. And I would even say for just between now, public hearing to actually add some money to it. So it's like 55,000. And then maybe get some better estimates for the public hearing so that we know that it's the right amount. Yeah, so move that one for 55,000.
And people are,
I'll second
if we didn't have to spend as much money, that all comes back to you anyways. That's what everyone.
Right.
Correct, yeah.
If,
Where?
Well,
we
well,
just-
yeah,
wait.
we just need to get our motion through here.
I'm sorry.
So you moved and I seconded, so it's moving it with an amount of 55,000.
Yeah,
With an updated proposal of what's gonna be done.
well, with the hope that when we do get to public hearing, that there'll be more
Yeah.
information for us to know that that's.
And
the
if
right amount.
you, I know they're hard to get pictures of the rot on the windows, they can take it from the inside, I don't know. But, you know, is it rotted
I
out or
mean, you
not?
cannot hang out those windows. They're
No,
not
but
open
you
from
can.
the outside. They don't open from the inside. You could never. That ain't-
Did someone get up there and look at them?
I mean, it sounds to me, it's unclear how rotted those window frames are. Is it?
As far as we're, yeah, as far as we're concerned,
Right,
we
so-
haven't actually seen
And
it.
then that would impact the end cost, and especially the unknown cost of repairing that. So the idea is to have some education for us at the very least, and for yourselves, of what's the scope of the work that they're gonna be doing? Or are they simply just gonna paint over rotted wood and call it even?
Well, it's, I know when you do stuff, you don't know what you get going on it either.
Well, we just, because if we looked at the proposal, that's kind of what it says, just says paint. It
Right,
just
so
doesn't say
I
paint.
think maybe if we get more information at public hearing and then we get it back, we'll be able to have further discussion as a committee.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. You guys ready to vote on that one? All right, all in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? All right, so that one's going through to public hearing now. The others, we have, is it 40C is the HVAC?
C is the HVAC,
Yeah.
B is the burn.
Then we'll make a motion about either of those.
Which one are we motioning on?
Let's say the HVAC, let's say C,
You mean the enclosure?
yeah.
If anyone wants to make a motion to move forward.
Does anyone make a motion to eliminate that one? Because we can't, that's where our choices are now. We're either eliminating or moving it on.
Make a motion to eliminate. Which one is it? 40B? No.
40C.
40C.
Been seconded. Any discussion about that one? As we vote, all in favor of eliminating 40C? Please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay, so that one is not going to be on the public hearing. And then the berm is 40B.
Make a motion, we eliminate that one.
Alrighty, discussion about that one.
I just don't know enough about it to really have a firm opinion. I would have to depend on people in the group.
Okay, so all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain?
I abstain.
All right, so then we are moving the window treatment for 55,000 onto the public hearing, which is the next item on the agenda is to call the public hearing. And I just need to, hold on one sec. I just need to see it because I closed it.
I have a question on 40A,
No, I'm gonna get it.
since library's here. to answer the question.
Oh, sure. Stu had a question for you guys about 40A.
Last time we spoke, you guys were getting some sort of plumber or drain guy out to run the camera down the pipes to see if they're plugged or not. What was the result of that?
That was done.
And did they find anything wrong with the pipes?
A leaf, we had a leaf. One.
All is well, no problems,
And
no breakage, no.
way down at the end of the pipe, a little bit of sludge, not enough to impede the flow.
Okay.
Stay on there.
We were looking at January 9th.
Yeah, and what time?
Can I ask that we do 7 o'clock? I believe, I don't have the calendar in front of me, that we have a selectmen's budget meeting that night, which would be at 5:30. It would just allow us a little bit of extra time and not have to be
Yeah,
crunched to went to an hour. So we did our public hearing at 7.
okay.
And any
Who's gonna make a motion to schedule?
replays.
Yeah,
You want me to make-
yeah, go ahead and make it and read all the things.
So make a motion that we schedule a public hearing to hear ARPA 39A, 39B, 39C, 40A, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 40B, no, sorry, 40D.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just point of clarification, Mike, did your motion include the date and the time?
I did not. I was trying to see if everybody was awake.
How did it?
I wasn't sure because by the time it was done.
So that would be January 9th at 7 p.m.
7 PM.
Here in this room.
You're in this room.
Is it gonna be in person? Do you need to specify you're gonna do it hybrid?
We should do it.
Yeah. We have that technology.
And when, you know, all sickness season. upon
Yeah.
us.
Yes. Okay. Any discussion about the public hearing? Okay, all in favor? Robin's not here, just let the record show. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? All right, so that, we have a public hearing set. And we have,
Funds in that line item for us.
oh yeah, we have plenty of funds in that line item. Yep. So yeah, I will type something up and have it go on the public notice. Well, do I work with Robin to do the public hearing notice?
I think Kelsey was
Kelsey?
doing it.
Yeah, okay, all right. And we'll send out, like, the last time I think we sent out like almost like a letter that went out to explain what the public hearing was about and what the items were that were on it. And we can do the same this time. I'll do whatever format that was last time. But, so, and just, you know, just for the library, so you have the 55,000 for the windows, the library gutters and downspouts for 21,000, and the other items too, and 39A, B, and C. So it's almost $100,000 worth of items. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see where that, I'll do the math, just let us know what we think. And then in the meantime, and we don't have another meeting of this commission before then, do we? Because
No, because
the
the first Monday is a holiday.
it's a holiday. So maybe as part of that public hearing, I'll do an update of where we're at. If we might be able to close some projects at the public hearing. Maybe,
We could close at least one.
at least one.
I anticipate the storage box
Yeah,
or eviction. could be closed.
okay, well,
And I'm hoping the small business
yeah.
grant.
Actually, so I have a mistake on mine.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Just the generator is still underwater.
Yeah, that's gonna be, that might.
It's gonna be a
It
while.
could be like the next year, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, I mean, depending on what it was. it could be like
We
almost
try
a
to stay
year out,
positive,
yeah.
but
It's-
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just realized I have an error in my orange line. Because, so just so you guys know on the tracker, what I was trying to do is the red number is what has been returned and that we have available back in the pot. And the orange is what we pretty much know we're gonna have returned and to add so that we can sort of guesstimate a little bit better. Except I made a mistake because on the storage box, the encumbrance was 6,500 and the actual cost was 50. That in that orange line should be like $1,000. So it's actually more like
115.
115. Yeah. So, but we will further refine as we go along. I think that right now, we're not gonna spend, even if we approved everything on this, we're gonna be fine still.
I
And
think
even,
because that 115 is accounted for in your math,
yeah,
in your tally above, right? Which leaves
Yeah.
us, so, we'll probably be short like 21,000.
yeah, and the only other thing to think about, that we do have to think about is the funds that have been returned are available to us, but not these orange funds are not available yet. So some things we might want to approve and say as soon as the funds become available. No,
Yeah,
or we just don't approve them
I would,
until,
and maybe we can talk about that after the public hearing at that next meeting, but I would tend to go that direction and say, let's not approve money that we don't know we have.
yeah,
Because then they
Until we
might
have it.
start getting things ready in anticipation. I wouldn't want to see someone commit themselves to something, even though they were told they didn't have the money available.
yeah,
So I have it in my to-do list to double check the small business and what has come out of our office. I believe I've signed, I think I've signed all of them. So, and that would at least give it, that's a big chunk, 30,000, and then, I'm sorry, 70,000, and then 1,000, almost 1,000 for the storage box. But I think the SBCA, the air packs and the generator, that's gonna account for, possibly $40,000. I don't
Mhm.
think that's gonna be available for some time.
yeah, right.
So we may be looking at more like $60,000 we won't have available,
Mhm.
and not 16.
Yeah,
So
okay,
I think just like we did when we were waiting for the money that we knew to be coming, we just didn't approve anything that,
Mhm.
if we don't have the money.
yeah. All right, well, I'm gonna take off these things. I'm gonna update the tracker right now while I'm thinking of it. All right, anything else that we need to do?
So that was a lot of words for trying to understand what's allocated and what's not allocated. Is
Yeah.
there surplus of money at this point?
Right. And the short answer is, it appears that there is a surplus, but the funds are not all available yet. Because some of these other projects have to close before the funds become available, like officially close. So,
And if Troy's generators isn't done till this time next year, then we couldn't approve, that 21,000 to anything until this time next year, when we knew that was the real dollar amount.
So we have to be careful.
yeah,
So
So given that everything comes in on budget, which it won't, what's the surplus today?
the surplus today, we have 39,000 has already officially been returned, and we have closed out those projects. So there's that. And then what we anticipate to be returned is around 115,000. And
but is this 155 right now, the 155, 953.26 is what we have to allocate?
correct,
Not including the library.
But those are the dollars we have. We have requests for 293,000,
Okay.
and we only have 155,000 to give out. If I'm looking at your,
yeah,
So
because we
don't-
can't anticipate the 120.
So we don't have a
Say
surplus.
155,
No, we do not have
No.
a surplus.
Okay.
not at the moment.
115 to be returned.
Right, but we can't use it
Potential.
until it's actually returned. So as of today, I would say for our 293,000, and it's a little less because we just
Eliminated.
Just
eliminated two,
6,
small.
7.
So let's say, $145,000 worth of things aren't going to get funded after the public hearing, can't be funded after the public hearing. So we'll have to prioritize, anticipating that maybe we could never do that. We don't have to eliminate
Yeah.
them, but if we're gonna leave, we're really hesitant on a project, and we have to prioritize our projects, and some that just may not happen.
Because we're over.
It's a little confusing.
Yeah,
Just like figuring out which day to put the check in the mail.
right.
I understand it enough to say the projects that went before the public hearing and approved by the committee are in.
So far, yes,
You're not gonna go back and change those.
those are
Somebody,
committed.
You
somebody
probably can't.
voted no on them.
No, he's saying the ones that we already went to public hearing and approved projects. Those are all set unless they came to us and said, I don't need the money anymore, cancel my
Right,
project.
I gave it back.
Right.
Okay.
So it's this new set for this new public hearing,
So it's anything that hasn't gone to public hearing and been voted on
right?
is in limbo.
Yes.
Right.
So it would be my understanding that even if it goes to public hearing, are we gonna vote on it?
We can vote, we can spend up to, right, as of today, we can spend 155,
Okay,
953.
thank you. Thank you.
So within our own
Christine.
group, we may have to prioritize, let's say all the ones that go to public hearing, go through public hearing, then we have to take those 10 or 12 projects, decide that, well, maybe we can only fund 6 of them. Because that's all the cash we have in hand. There may be a motion on the others to sit on them until some more money comes back, if any comes back.
Right, or you might say it's winter time, they can't possibly do this work right now.
Fund
So,
what you, yeah,
let's
fund
just-
what can be done.
yeah,
But we'll try to, anything that's ready to close, we'll try to get that information so that we can do it, so that we'll have a real, like, I think that 70,000, I think that's ready to close.
Mhm.
Because they're, as long as all the checks have been cut. And then that will put a big chunk back in there, but right now it's, like almost 145,000 of these, we have to, say no, knowing that they may never get a yes.
Mhm.
If Troy's generators that happen for another year, is there gonna be some surprise costs? And so something new that changes the project at that point, I'd like to hope not.
Okay. All right, that's good.
We get a little sticky at the end.
Yeah,
But, and I think that was part of what I hope the library understood was a lot of different areas in town. And yes, the money was available to every department. They had a list of things and priorities ready to go so that they could send to ARPA. Like, oh, we've had this in CIP. We can move this over to here. And CIP helped with that process. The fact that the library for, 6 months didn't have anything prepared to bring to this is just another part of our concern and why we were asking them so many more questions.
yeah. And they'll come to CIP now, which is great.
Yeah.
So,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
If there's any nays on that one.
No.
I emailed my